Arnold destroys the view. Hosts live. Joy and Sunny silenced in shocking showdown. The View had never shied away from controversy. With a panel of outspoken progressive hosts, the talk show thrived on topical debates, often with a liberal-leaning slant. Its ratings soared when sparks flew, and today promised to be one of those days. The producers had scored what they believed to be a major coup. Former California governor and legendary action star Arnold Schwarzenegger had agreed to appear on the show. Officially, the topic was to be the immigrant experience in America, a theme Arnold had publicly discussed in the past. But beneath the surface, the hosts had other ideas. Joy Behar was particularly energized that morning. "We've got Arnold today," she said during the pre-show meeting, tapping her pen on the desk. "I want to press him on the rise of right-wing nationalism and anti-immigrant rhetoric. Let's see if the Terminator still knows how to dodge bullets." Sonny Hostin nodded, already preparing a list of pointed questions. "He's praised America a lot. Let's see if he'll acknowledge its systemic problems. I want to hear what he thinks about ICE raids, about sanctuary cities, about Trump's immigration policies." Whoopi Goldberg sipped her coffee, watching them with raised eyebrows. "Let's not forget, he's still a Republican, even if he's not MAGA. Don't let the muscles fool you." The crowd was buzzing as taping began. The View stage was bathed in warm lights, and the camera panned across the familiar faces: Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, and Sarah Haynes. A fanfare played as the guest of the day walked onto the stage. Arnold Schwarzenegger in a crisp navy blazer, his hair perfectly coiffed, a warm smile on his face. The applause was thunderous. Arnold waved and took his seat, shaking hands with each host. He seemed relaxed, even amused as the chatter began. "Arnold, welcome to The View." Joy began with a wide smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You've had such an incredible journey from Mr. Universe to the governor's mansion. So let's dive in." "What does the American dream mean to you these days?" Arnold chuckled. "To me, the American dream is real. I came here with nothing but a gym bag and a vision. I worked hard, respected the rules, and gave back to the country that gave me so much." Sonny leaned forward. "And what do you say to those who argue that the system doesn't work the same for everyone, that people of color, immigrants, refugees don't get the same shot?" Arnold nodded slowly. "America isn't perfect, but I've always believed that this country gives more opportunity than anywhere else. But it's not just about taking. You have to give back. When you're a guest in someone's house, you don't break the furniture. You clean up after yourself. You say thank you." Joy stiffened. "Are you implying that immigrants today are breaking the furniture, as you put it?" The room tensed. Arnold remained composed. "I'm saying that some people forget that freedom comes with responsibility. You come here for opportunity, not to riot, not to commit crimes, not to demand that America change for you while you give nothing back." A hush fell over the audience. Whoopi leaned in. "So let me get this straight. You think immigrants should just shut up and be grateful, even if they're fleeing war, famine, oppression?" "No," Arnold replied evenly. "I think they should be grateful and active. They should work, contribute, and honor the laws. That's how we build a better America together, not by dividing into tribes of grievance." Sunny shook her head. "That sounds a lot like blaming the victims." Arnold's jaw set. "It's not to blame. It's true. I've seen both sides, the struggle and the success. You can't just demand without giving. That's not equality. That's entitlement." Joy's voice sharpened. "You sound like a Fox News host. Are you even a Republican anymore? I'm an American." Arnold said simply, "That's the only party I care about." The crowd erupted, mixed clapping and gasps. The producers glanced nervously at each other. This wasn't the scripted love fest they'd hoped for. This was something else entirely, and it was just beginning. The energy on set had shifted. The conversation with Arnold had gone from nostalgic to confrontational within minutes. The crowd, known for leaning liberal, was now in stunned silence, unsure whether to applaud his candor or recoil from his bluntness. Joy Behar broke the pause. "You know what I find interesting, Arnold? You talk about America like it's flawless, but this country has a deep history of racism, of xenophobia. Don't you think we owe people the truth about that too?" Arnold's expression didn't change. "Of course, the truth must be told. But we don't fix the country by tearing it down. We fix it by working together, by owning responsibility, every citizen, every guest. Sonny Hostin's tone became sharper. But what do you say to immigrants who are criminalized for merely existing in this country without papers? What about the families separated at the border under policies endorsed by your party? Arnold leaned forward. You separate criminals from children because law matters. If we say law doesn't matter, we become chaos. I believe in compassion, but compassion within order. My family in Austria knew what chaos looked like. You don't want that. Gasps rippled across the studio. Joy interjected quickly, sensing the temperature spike. You're saying it's okay to put kids in cages? Arnold raised a hand. No. I'm saying it's not okay to ignore law and expect paradise. We must fix the system. But we don't do that by turning America into a punching bag. Whoopi Goldberg spoke slowly. You're sounding like someone who's forgotten where he came from. Arnold turned to her directly. I remember exactly where I came from. That's why I respect what this country gave me. I owe America. That's why I served. That's why I gave my salary as governor to after-school programs. What did you do with your platform? The studio went completely silent. Joy's eyes widened. That's not fair. We speak out. We fight for equity. You mock. You divide. You lecture. Arnold said, his voice calm but firm. But where is your solution? Sarah Haynes, who had remained relatively quiet, tried to de-escalate. Let's take a step back. We brought you here to share your experience, Arnold, but clearly we have differing views on what America owes its people versus what people owe America. Arnold nodded. That's fair. I don't expect agreement, but I expect honesty. You invited me. Don't act shocked when I give real answers. A producer gestured off-camera commercial break was approaching. Joy turned to the audience, her smile forced. We'll be right back with more of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who apparently came here to terminate the view. A mix of laughter and unease echoed through the studio. Backstage, the crew scrambled. Segment 3 was supposed to be light fitness tips, maybe a funny story from Arnold's acting days. Now they were debating if they should pivot or double down. He's electrifying the audience, the executive producer said. We can't cut him off. He's hijacking the narrative, another producer warned. Back in the green room, Arnold sipped water, unbothered. They wanted a real conversation, he said to his publicist. Now they have one. The publicist checked their phone. Social media was ablaze. Arnold on The View was trending. Split reactions. Some called him brave. Others branded him out of touch. The clip of his guest in a house metaphor had already gone viral. They returned from break. Joy leaned in her tone, syrupy but steely. So, Arnold, you've become something of a lightning rod online. People are calling your views outdated, harsh, even heartless. How do you respond? Arnold smiled. I respond by showing results. Do you want equality? Lift people up. But don't lie to them. Don't tell them America owes them anything. It offers opportunities. That's more than most places on Earth. Sonny cut in. You talk like America is still the land of equal opportunity. What about redlining? What about voter suppression? I didn't say the path was perfect, Arnold said. But the path exists. That's a miracle. You can change your life here. I did. Millions do. The moment you tell people they're doomed, you kill hope. Whoopi's eyes narrowed. And what do you say to those who feel ignored, stepped over, erased? I say fight for change, Arnold said. But don't hate the country that lets you fight. And don't confuse criticism with contribution. There was another pause, tense but electric. The audience seemed glued to every word. Joy Behar inhaled sharply. You're saying all this from a place of privilege. You're a white man, rich, famous. Isn't it easy for you to talk about rules and gratitude? Arnold's voice dropped slightly. My skin didn't pay for my house. My accent didn't give me votes. I worked, I gave, and I never asked America to bow to me. I bowed to its promise. A murmur of applause broke out. Not everyone clapped, but it was enough to shift the room. As the next break cue flashed, Joy announced, we're not done. When we return, what does Arnold really think about Trump? The audience gasped. Arnold leaned back in his seat, unflinching. I thought you'd never ask. The studio lights burned hot, but the atmosphere on the View set was much hotter. Joy Behar, red-faced and visibly ruffled, leaned forward on the desk as if trying to physically push her frustration into Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let me ask you something, Arnold. She began, emphasizing his name with a sharpness. When you say immigrants should act like guests, what exactly do you mean? Because it sounds like you're suggesting second-class behavior for people who are building this country. Arnold didn't blink. He sat straighter, folding his hands calmly on the table. I mean, respect, he said. When I came to this country, I felt grateful. I worked hard, paid my taxes, obeyed the law. That's what I ask from everyone, not because they're second class, but because they're part of a society that has rules. This is not about race or origin. It is about behavior. Sonny Hostin, her voice measured but laced with steel, jumped in. But you're ignoring systemic inequalities that drive many immigrants into desperate situations. You can't just say, act right when the system is broken. Your narrative erases struggle. Arnold's jaw tightened. Sonny, I didn't erase anyone. I'm saying we should uplift our values. If the system is broken, let's fix it. But we don't fix anything by excusing lawlessness. Respect and order matter. They build the foundation for change. The camera zoomed in on Whoopi Goldberg, who had remained mostly quiet until now, but the twitch in her eyebrow said everything. She slowly removed her glasses and looked at Arnold. You want respect, she said, but you walked in here swinging with statements that undermine the lived experiences of millions. That's not how we move the conversation forward. Arnold shook his head. I came here with honesty. You may not like the words, but honesty isn't the enemy. Political correctness won't save this country. Truth and accountability will. The audience let out a collective murmur split between gasps and scattered applause. The tension was no longer under the surface. It was a war. Joy leaned back, arms crossed. Well, if you're so into truth, maybe you can explain how you justify supporting policies that disproportionately harm communities of color. Or are we just going to gloss over that Arnold's gaze locked with hers? Because I believe in law and order, that makes me harmful. Let me ask you, Joy, where do you draw the line? When is it okay to break the law, and when is it not? What do we tell the child who obeys the rules and sees others rewarded for ignoring them? Sunny narrowed her eyes. You simplify. You always simplify. Reality isn't black and white. Then let's talk in color, Arnold replied sharply. Let's talk about the violence in immigrant communities that no one wants to mention. Let's talk about the cartels, the trafficking. Let's stop pretending it's all flowers and flags. Whoopi stood now, something rarely done mid-segment. And let's talk about the reason people flee to this country in the first place. Because of foreign policies, war's economic disasters often influenced or exacerbated by the same politicians you support. Arnold responded without rising. Then let's change that too. But don't invite chaos in the name of compassion. That's not progressive. That's reckless. A few audience members clapped, but it was quickly drowned by murmurs. The hosts were no longer united in approach. Sunny was flipping through her cue cards, visibly perturbed. Joy looked flustered. Whoopi surprisingly sat back down with a long exhale. The producer signaled the camera to cut to a commercial, but the tension didn't leave the room. Off air, the debate continued, mic still half on. You were brought here to promote your memoir, the producer whispered sharply to Arnold, not to launch a philosophical war. Arnold leaned back in his chair and smiled slightly. Then you booked the wrong man. The producer groaned. When they returned live, Whoopi took the lead again, but her voice had a new edge of curiosity rather than aggression. Arnold, despite how much we might disagree, she began, I think the audience deserves to know what led you to say those words. What personal moment, what lesson shaped this idea of respect that you're so fixated on? Arnold nodded, settling into a rare moment of vulnerability. I grew up in post-war Austria. Rubble rationing shame. I watched men come home broken and watched communities try to rebuild. My father taught me something harsh. Respect must be earned, but so often it must be taught. America gave me a second life. I saw the value in structure. I never take this nation for granted. Even Joy seemed to pause. He continued, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. But when I speak about respect, it comes from that memory of what happens when a nation forgets its principles. The studio went quiet. No one knew quite how to respond. Arnold had seized the moment not with aggression but clarity. And for the first time since the segment began, there was no retort, No interruption. Just silence and thought. The crack in the veneer had formed, and through it, something new had entered the studio reflection. The studio of The View had never felt more electric. As the show resumed after a short commercial break, the air was thick with the tension from the preceding argument. Arnold Schwarzenegger, still seated, calmly sipped from a glass of water, his demeanor unshaken. Joy Behar, Sonny Hostin, and Whoopi Goldberg exchanged glances as if regrouping mentally before launching into the next salvo. "Arnold, I think what we're trying to say," Sonny began, her voice measured, "is that your comments simplify a very complex situation. Immigrants don't just come here and start breaking laws. The majority are fleeing violence, poverty." Arnold held up a hand, gently but firmly. "And I respect that. I truly do. But respect goes both ways. America opens its doors, yes, with laws, borders, and systems. If you're a guest, you follow the house rules. It's basic decency." The audience murmured again, this time a mixed wave of support and skepticism. Whoopi leaned in, her brow furrowed. "But isn't it dangerous to paint all immigrants with one brush, especially coming from someone in your position? You're an immigrant, Arnold. Everyone should understand how hard it is." Arnold nodded. "Yes, I am an immigrant. That's why I understand. I came here legally, I worked hard, respected the laws, and I gave back. That's the deal. That's the promise. You don't come to someone's house and start tearing up the floorboards." Joy Behar, visibly frustrated, interjected. "This sounds like a Fox News script. You're blaming immigrants for crime when actual statistics—" Arnold raised a brow. "Joy, crime statistics aren't imaginary. Sanctuary cities have challenges. You can spin the numbers, but people in those neighborhoods live the consequences." "That's a dog whistle," Sonny shot back. Arnold's smile faded slightly. "No, it's a foghorn. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to tell the truth." The atmosphere turned almost confrontational. For a moment, it seemed like the show might spiral into chaos. The producer's voice buzzed in the earpieces, urging moderation, but it was too late. The battle lines were drawn. Whoopi attempted to restore order. "Let's shift the focus. Arnold, you mentioned giving back. What does that mean in your view for immigrants today?" Arnold took a breath, easing into the pivot. "Giving back means engaging with your community, volunteering, paying taxes, respecting local laws, and yes, learning the language, the history, and the values that hold this country together. That's not oppression, that's integration." The audience applauded. Arnold continued more passionately now. "It doesn't mean abandoning your heritage. It means embracing your new home with the same vigor you escaped hardship with. That's how you honor both paths." Sonny shook her head slightly. "But not everyone gets the same opportunities you had. Some face systemic barriers." "True," Arnold agreed, "but obstacles don't excuse destruction. We fight to fix the system within it, not by burning it down." There was a pause. For the first time, the hosts appeared momentarily reflective. Arnold had managed to punch through the rhetoric with an appeal rooted in his own experience, his struggle, his values. The next segment was set to feature a different guest, but the producers made a rare decision. They extended Arnold's time. A studio runner handed Whoopi a note. She read it, nodded, and turned to Arnold. "Looks like we're keeping you for one more segment." Arnold smiled, his Austrian accent thickening slightly with humor. "I guess I haven't been terminated just yet." Laughter erupted from the audience, easing the atmosphere. What followed was the most civil exchange of the day. Arnold shared stories from his early days in America, sleeping in a tiny room, cleaning gyms, building his name with sweat equity and resilience. He spoke of mentors who believed in him and opportunities he seized. Joy, still clearly ideological opposed, found common ground on one point: his charitable work. "At least you're walking the walk, Arnold." "That's all I ask," he replied. "Let's stop shouting and start doing." As the segment wrapped, applause filled the studio, again stronger this time. The audience had witnessed not just a clash of opinions, but a clash of worldviews moderated by the unique gravity of a man who had lived both sides of the American dream. As the credits for that hour rolled, the backstage crew buzzed with energy. Producers exchanged nods, whispering that this episode might just become a viral moment, something bigger than a ratings win. It was a culture in conflict, raw, emotional, human, and Arnold had stood tall in the middle of it all. The lights dimmed as the cameras cut. The View had just experienced one of its most electrifying moments ever. Backstage, Arnold Schwarzenegger wiped sweat from his brow with a towel, exhaling deeply. He exchanged sighs and soft smiles with the production team. This was a win, but not the kind that required celebration. This was real. The hosts retreated to the green room with their teams. Joy sat at the edge of the couch. She wasn't smiling. Whoopi and Sunny stood nearby, heads bent in conversation, analysis, afterthoughts, recalibration. Across the room, producers hustled with tablet screens, replaying Arnold's calm takedown, captioned lines highlighted in bold. From across the hall, Arnold's assistant appeared with bottled water. He paused, studied Arnold, then asked quietly, "How do you feel Arnold took the bottle but didn't open it?" Instead, he looked off reflective. "Tired," he said softly. "Not from speaking it's the weight. I speak for immigrants like me, and I want them to know this hasn't been easy. But it can be. We just have to try." His assistant nodded. Across the hallway, the hosts were done with debates. Tension still held the room tight. The director's waiting room filled with buzz. Producers and camera operators dissected the on-air tension. The concision of Arnold's remarks, the way he redirected host questions, every detail poised for post-show debrief and streaming clips. Suddenly, storm warnings pinged on phones. The highlights package had just been posted Arnold's House Rules remark, already racking up tens of thousands of views. Early comments were divided. Praise for his logic, disdain for his tone. The wire had caught fire. "Voice we need follow-up guests," a producer said. "Experts," response, "balance." Another said, "If the hosts don't push back the next episode, social critics say we're soft." But perhaps more significant, something different had emerged. A rare moment when an immigrant voice, tough but respectful, forced even the hardest progressives to pause. Word got around fast. Late-night hosts referenced the exchange. One joked Arnold just out Schwarzenegger the View host now. Isn't that a twist? Social media reacted to. Conservatives shared praise screenshots. Finally, someone who makes sense on the View. Liberals, some distanced, others more introspective, questioned whether the View had become preachy. Arnold logged out of backstage feeds quietly. He needed time to think how to use this spotlight. He believed in more than ratings. He believed in a uniting purpose. He slipped into a nearby quiet room, unlit, sat eyes closed. His assistant brought over the producer's phone clip, Arnold, on guests who respect the rules, now 2M views. He let it play in silence. He remembered his first days in America, unsteady English nights, scraping by endless hustle. That tenacity, that grit that was the heart of the story, he just told millions. It was his truth, and he felt its power now. His phone buzzed. A message from a friend in a sanctuary city. "Thank you for stating the obvious. We need voices like yours." He typed back, "We create bridges, not tear walls." The show had formally ended, but tension lingered. Producers escorted Arnold back for a short final mic. Cool down, his perspective was still in demand. Outside reporters waited. Arnold emerged, towel-slung goggles of calm. He strode forward. "Arnold," a reporter called after an intense debate, "do you believe?" The View crossed a line. He paused. "I believe debate is healthy. I believe if we respect each other and stick to facts, not rhetoric, then crossing lines becomes unnecessary." Another shouted, "What about criminal immigrants?" Arnold lifted his palms. "Criminals are criminals. They're not my target. I'm talking about those who come here legally ready to work. They're not having this conversation." "I am," reporters scribbled. Cameras flashed. Arnold nodded, gave one last statement, and walked away into a side corridor, his host duties complete. Back inside, storm drains of chatter kept the energy going. Joy, Sunny, Whoopi each still replaying moments. Joy muttered, He really hit our point home," Sunny said softly. "And yet he did it, respectfully. I'll give him that." Whoopi just stared at her notes. Behind it all, a question hung. Could this moment lead to something broader? Could Arnold's voice be a bridge instead of a wedge? One thing was clear. The View had opened a Pandora's box. Arnold's integrity-driven argument had equal praise and critique. The night ended without fanfare. The show's staff trickled out. The set sat half-lit, faint hum of monitors still alive. Arnold retreated to the green room, took off mic pack, removed earpiece, and looked at himself in the mirror. He wasn't a movie hero now. He'd been himself an immigrant, a citizen, a man who knew something fundamental: respect and law don't cancel empathy and asylum. That could be the beginning, a beginning he hoped would outlast headlines. He left the studio quiet, steady, a man who had just done something many politicians couldn't: speak truth in a spotlight and do it with grace. A week had passed since Arnold Schwarzenegger's unexpected on-air clash with the co-hosts of The View, and the ripple effects were still shaking the media landscape. Clips from the segment had gone viral, sparking thousands of response videos, dueling op-eds, and nationwide debate. From liberal forums to conservative talk shows, everyone had something to say. At ABC's executive boardroom, producers reviewed analytics with mixed expressions. Engagement is up 62%, one said, but viewer sentiment is polarized. We've alienated part of our core but brought in a whole new demo.